there's a pole, a very tall pole. There's a flag on the pole, and it's a Canadian flag, and it's waving. What does that mean, Mr. Contest Chair? What does that mean, fellow Toastmasters and guests and contest officials? When I was a young man, I remember hearing this story about a man from Canada. In wintertime, he went down to Texas, and apparently they have poles in Texas. And he, for some reason, had a flag with him. So he put a flag on the pole. Well, a Texan saw that he had a pole with a flag on it, and the Texan didn't like it because flags and poles mean something to Americans. Well, the Texan wasn't very happy, and that really wasn't what the Canadian wanted, so of course he took the flag down. Well, when you're an American, a flag really means something to you. I don't know if you remember those pictures where it's kind of an iconic picture where there's a hill and there's like 4 or 5 strong young men climbing the hill, and they got a sturdy pole with an American flag on it, and they plant that pole on that hill. Mine, or something. Well, to a Canadian, that's not what it means. So then, what does it mean? Well, I think for a Canadian, it goes back, all the way back to the start of Canada. It's so long ago, nobody remembers where we started from. And I think it's the kind of thing, it's so much a part of us, we don't really realize it's there. The Canadian flag that we have today, the country of Canada we have today, we didn't always have a Canadian flag. Before we had the Canadian flag, we had all of Canada. But before we even had a Canada, we had Upper and Lower Canada, which is kind of Toronto and Montreal. Well, back in those days, there were people in BC and British Columbia. It's a long ways away. And the people in Upper and Lower Canada, they heard about the people in BC and thought, you know, it'd be great if they were part of everything with us. Well, the people in BC thought that would be nice, but Upper and Lower Canada, it's too far away. You can't even go there to say hi. You can't get there from here. This was the problem. They decided they were going to fix the problem. They were going to build a railroad. It was a long way to build a railroad. It was a very, very difficult challenge because it was very, very, very far. And there were many challenges and difficulties. Building the railroad, they had to build the railroad through swamps. And in the swamps you had mosquitoes. Big mosquitoes in those days. They had wings. They had wings this big. Had a body this big. And another wing. But they did it. They built the railroad. They made it very long, go very far, and then they came up to the mountains. The mountains were very tall, and they were very rocky. That's why they call them the Rocky Mountains. What are you going to do? You want them to be able to come over and say hi. So they put a hole right through the rock. A big hole. They put a hole through the mountain that was so big, you could run a whole train through it. But not so big that the mosquitoes would get through. That wouldn't be nice. Well, finally they had built the railroad, they put the last spike in, and the people from BC were finally able to connect with the people from Upper and Lower Canada, and that all became Canada. And they came over and they said hi. And it was great. So now, if you're somewhere in the world, anywhere in the world, maybe it's a place that's beautiful or ordinary, maybe it's a place where you know the name or one where you can't even pronounce it. If you look over and there's a pole, a very tall pole, that's got a flag on it, and it's a Canadian flag. There might be a Canadian there. And if that flag is waving, that Canadian would love for you to come on over and say hi. And that's what it means.